John Robb here interviewed Brix Smith about her new album, Valley of the Dolls. I think last time we spoke, you were still doing the Extricated, and this is in the pre-play time, so it's a lot has changed in the world since then, and also in your world. So I guess a good place to start is what happened to the Extricated? Did it just fizzle out, or did you just have different types of songs that didn't fit into that format?
Oh, well, the Extricated just naturally came to its own conclusion without any discussion. It was completely organic in a weird way, like the way it began. So what happened was at the very last gig we did before the pandemic, I was taken aside by a woman called Nadine Shaw, who's a singer who's really great. And she said, I think you got to be doing something else. I think you got to be writing with other people. I think nothing against the Extricated, but she was just frustrated at seeing me play, tiny places, just like not enough full people, and just something wasn't hitting the mark. So I started crying because I knew there was something inside that was true. And to be fair, the Extricated, Jason and Steve Treffer, they have young children, and they were daddies and they have other jobs, and everybody had other lives, and it wasn't their priority, and it was, you know what it's like. So we did 3 great albums, and I'm so grateful for doing that because it really got me back in the saddle. And I got my writing skills up to scratch, and for sure my front woman performing skills that really gave me confidence to go on. Then, of course, the pandemic hit. Before that, also, I was put in touch with Youth by Nadine Shaw's manager to write. I was going to just carry on writing. I wasn't going to be in a band. I was going to write for other people, with other people. I basically consider myself as a songwriter, if you had to say what I am. So I thought, okay, this will be fun. I've always wanted to work with this guy. Anyway, pandemic hit. We couldn't get in the same room. So we started sending files back and forth. And he would send me backing tracks, and I would write the melody and the lyrics and record all like the vocals at home and send them back to him in Spain. And it just became, literally from like song number 1, which was Aphrodite, the first song we wrote, to Changing, which was the last song, everyone was a fucking banger. So we were like, whoa, what is this? And Youth, I didn't really have the confidence. For all the confidence people think I have, I've hidden behind a band my whole life, including the Extricated. So Youth said, this is your time, Brix. He was the one, he pushed me out there and said, put your head above the parapet, woman. It's your fucking time, and own it. So that's how it came to be.
It's interesting now when you look back at Extricated, it seems like two different, very good projects inside the same thing at the same time. So there's kind of like what they're basically gone on to do themselves. They kind of gone on to over the House of All, gone back to the fall kind of thing, and it's very good.
Yeah.
But there's also what you're doing now as well with the solo album. You can hear both things at the same time and Extricated.
Yeah.
It's kind of doing what you're doing before, but without the fall bits, isn't it?
Well, it's still got my fall bits in it because you can't take that out. But yes, everything is a natural progression, and you learn from every step on the journey. And during the Extricated, we used to have this long running, not battle, but discussion about how much fall would be included. I was all for playing lots of fall because certainly stuff that we wrote, like not obviously not cover versions because we wrote it, but just reinventing it and bringing those songs back to life, because I feel the world deserves to hear all the fall songs. But obviously, clearly, I'm not Mark. No one is. No one will ever fucking be Mark. And that's the end of it. So it was kind of controversial. Most of the band wanted to stick to new material. They didn't want to do the fall stuff. And I respected that because I'm a team player, and that's what we did. So we stuck mostly to Extricated, threw in a few fall numbers, end of story. But I have to say that the House of All, I am so happy that they're all playing together. They've all come back, and that they're celebrating the music of the fall. I'm so happy they're all working and playing. Steve Hanley should be playing that fucking bass every day. That is what he does. So I am like, this is the perfect thing. Now I'm carrying on doing what I do and making completely new stuff. And they're carrying on, I guess they're reinterpreting or having the essence of the fall in what they're writing with new stuff. And I'm like, good on them, go boys, invite me to every show. I'm totally up for it.
I'm surprised you didn't know Youth before. But when I read that, I thought you'd have known him for years. Yeah,
it's weird. It feels like we have known each other for years, but we actually never physically had a conversation or met properly. So until over lockdown on FaceTime. Yeah.
So what was the initial conversations like? I mean, you say the original idea was that you'd be a songwriter, and I guess his loose cabal of songwriters and creative people seem to like gravitate towards him. So like a little sort of in his planetary orbit or something. Was that? I mean, does he have a lot of people like that writing with him, or?
He does. He actually he's a fantastic, brilliant songwriter. So he does collaborate. He writes a lot with the people that he produces. Like, he's extremely good at a chorus, you know? So a lot of people will come to him with no chorus, and Youth will write the chorus, you know? He just is a man that understands it. So, but for us, we actually, and this was so great, no agenda, no record company, no time frame, no money constraints. So we could just work at our leisure and see what came out without any pressure, and no worrying about what was going to be the end result, just writing a song. But it became absolutely apparent within the first song that we had some kind of special chemistry, really special. And both of us felt it. And so we just let it evolve. And, you know, it took a long time to finish it. I've never worked so long and fastidiously on something, but again, it was because I had no money pressure. All my time I've had to go in and make a record in 4 days because that's all the money there was, you know. And he's a great producer, and for me, it turns out I needed one. The best stuff I've done has been with Lecky, Leon, and Youth. So I needed a producer. I needed someone to help keep my car on the rails, you know, and guide me, and somebody that I respected and trusted, but that wasn't going to stamp me out and put their ego all over me, which is another thing that used to happen. I'm such a team player that I really let everybody chime in, and I'm like, okay, if that's what you want, you know, Miss Hippie California. But this time he really championed me. He kept calling me a goddess the whole way through. You're a goddess energy, goddess. He's so great with women, and particularly, you know, you can see he's done great work with Gina Birch, with so many, you know, I can't even name all the names, but yeah, he was just an absolute joy to work with.
So part of the skill of a great producer is not just to discipline the artist, you know, and, you know, give the parameters, but actually to give them a very wide space to be themselves, isn't it? By actually taking away some of the limitations. And is it that balance that Youth is very good at?
Very good. I mean, obviously Youth, everyone, when they look at me or anyone else, they look through their own lens, right? So you think of me as this certain kind of person. I mean, you actually know me deeply, but I mean, lots of people project a lot of stuff onto me that isn't me. They don't really know. And I think in the beginning, Youth projected onto me like sort of like whatever, a punk princess or pop punk royalty, whatever, you know. And but there's a lot more facets to my musical inspirations that came from very, very young age, which is a combination of a lot of things, including a touch of folk, a drop of psychedelia, you know, a bit of pop, but Youth saw me in one way, so there's quite a lot of heavy kind of post-punk bangers on it. But then we began to experiment more. So with things like Black Butterfly and with Changing and with Black Rainbow Sky, those songs began to really allow me to bloom. And there's more stuff that we've recorded that's not on the album that will come next. That's waiting in the wings. That's even more psychedelic and a little more experimental. And I love that too. So he allowed me to like, the whole album is really a journey from the very beginning, Living Through My Despair, which is very classic fall Brix, all the way to Black Butterfly, which is where I want to go. That's me.
Yeah. So the album's actually almost in chronological creative order.
It wasn't meant to be, but when I listen to it, it's like, whoa, you know, it does take you on a journey, which it should.
So in a sense, that journey is let's say as a guess here, is escaping the shackles of that kind of fall period and becoming, going full blue as what you do as a writer. I mean, did you find that freedom of not having the expectation of that, what you did in the fall from years ago? Was that just such a wonderful thing, to escape? Well, why does it not sound like this? Why is it not about that? Suddenly you could just do the things you actually wanted to do.
Well, with the Extricated, I had pretty much worked out that angst I felt about the fall sound and me being part of that. I had pretty much put it to bed. And now by this point, John Robb, I was either going to give up and just live my life or have a go at making the record I always dreamed of making before the fall, before the adult net. Everything, it's weird because Alan McGee said to me, Brix, everything you've done's been really good, but this by far is the best thing you've done since the fall. He said, with everything else, there was just something not quite right. Either I didn't have a right team behind me or enough money to promote it, or the songs weren't quite there, and he said, this is spot on. So it was, the shackles were gone. And to be honest, I did not give a fuck. I cannot, I couldn't be more brutal with how I say it. But basically, I realized I cannot control what people think about me. The only thing I can control is my own thoughts and feelings. And the only person I need to please here is myself and youth. And I need to feel good about everything, every word I lace together, every melody that hangs on melody, that infects your mind, every beat, everything. And this is the one album where there's not one thing that I cringe when I listen back. So, it felt really good because I basically took my hands off the wheel and let God drive the car,
Good line for a song there.
Yeah, well, take it if you want it, bud.
So did the songwriting process change as well? You say you exchanged your files with you. I imagine before, you'd have a riff and a few, some ideas of a song, go in a room, kick it out with the bands. But this is a different process, isn't it? And I guess it's more meticulous and it's more about listening, and you get a couple of days. So, I mean, the initial kernels of the songs, would it be you like sort of playing on your Rickenbacker, I guess, just playing, getting some good little things? Oh, are you thinking, youth would like this. This would work with youth. What can youth do with that? Is it a different process, creative process?
Well, first of all, I discovered when I was working with the Extricated that they would send me backing tracks and I would write the words, the melodies, and everything around what they would send me. And I realized I'm a much better sort of doing a top line than I am writing a backing track. I'm capable of doing that, but they were all actually physically better musicians than I, not all, but they were better sort of technical. Like Jason is like, another level. So I let them do what they were good at, and I did what I was good at. And I'm like, this is where I'm comfortable. Of course I can write songs from scratch. With youth, same thing. I used the same process where he would send me a backing track. We talked about what my historical references were from childhood. So there is a lot of that LA 60s stuff in there because that's what inspired me in the very beginning. And then what I did was I look at a song like a jigsaw puzzle. So he would send me the backing track, sometimes in structure, sometimes I would have to create the structure. And he would send me this, and he would send me a title as well, which I loved because that would challenge me to have to pull through myself and write the lyrics according to his title for what his vision of that music was. So something like Living Through My Despair was not my title. This music came with Living Through My Despair, and out came, I would take my headphones and I'd walk in the park and listen to the backing track and write the song as my body moved, get it into my phone, go back home and spend a week recording the lyrics, recording the melody, sending it back, getting criticism, more harmonies here, less words here, this and that, send it back, and then I get fucking great. And that would be it. So that's how it worked. So youth wrote all the music except I put on all the final guitar leads, most of them we kind of shared. I was really reticent about playing guitar because I was just so into singing. And he was like, you have to play guitar, you have to. So he'd throw the guitar at me and literally I'd do it in one take. I don't even know how it came out. But so there's quite a few blistering little leads on there that I'm very proud of. But other than that, he played everything. It's just him and me and a session drummer that overdubbed the drums in the end, called Eddie Banda, who's living in Manchester, who's like the most amazing drummer.
It's interesting because you can actually play drums as well, can't he?
Well, he programmed the soft drums. He programmed the soft drums. I've never seen him hit a drum kit personally, but he programmed all the soft drums into the backing track when he sent them to me. So, obviously, he's got away with rhythm, as we know, and beats. He's brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, with the bits of music he was sending, are they his interpretations of what he thinks you should sound like? So he's kind of channeling you in his mind into a piece of music. I'm guessing here. Yeah.
Yes, but then there were some that came that were so unexpected, like Black Butterfly. When Black Butterfly came, which is, I mean, some journalists have called it like the anthem of our age, and it's all about like what we all went through as the human race in the last 3 years, and the isolation and the fear and the and the evolving and the metamorphosis of how we've come out better. We've come out more empathetic as a species and better, kinder, thinking about other people, and damaged because it's all been a fucking horrendous thing. And this was it was written during the isolation where he could not see his family. I could not get to my family. My brother died. It was all fucked up. Anyway, this song comes through, Black Butterfly, and it's like my mind blows. It's like something like there's a touch of Stairway to Heaven. There's a touch of like super like backwards Beatles in their most psychedelic, mind-blowing acid phase. There's a touch of I felt a touch of like what's his name? From Bristol, Portishead. Touch Portishead vibe, like all this stuff. Anyway, when I heard this backing track, I was like, this is like the greatest thing I've ever heard that anyone has ever sent me. And how am I ever going to raise my game? Because there was no chorus at all. And it was not in a structure. It was in a very interesting structure, more like an opera almost. And I was like, how am I going to raise my game as a writer to reach the level that this person has sent me this music? It's on another level. It's magical. So I worked so hard on that. We call it the beast, because it took me weeks to get it just so. And then it took days to mix it, where things would mix themselves generally. This was like a monster. And even to cut, you had to go back again, and even to rehearse. Now we're rehearsing with my girls. It's like it's always the closer of the set, and it's the closer of the album, and it's a real different pace than everything else. So when people see it as a closer, they're like, oh my god. So yeah, I'm really proud of that one.
I mean, so initially you were sending files backwards and forwards, and I guess there's some point where you go around to that amazing house of his and you collaborate eyeball to eyeball. Or is it just you just do the files and go to Spain, or was it a bit where you went
everything.
So how much did that change the songs and the dynamic? I imagine I've been to that house a few times, and even the house itself is a work of art. It kind of sort of soaks into your skin, isn't it?
It's a museum, yeah. So what would happen is we did a lot in that house, actually. So we recorded most of like what you would call sort of like guide stuff over lockdown, but it turns out that 90% of the vocals I recorded at home got used on the album. So I did a good job engineering. Anyway, so we'd go there with Michael Rendell, who engineered it, who's a fucking genius as well. We'd go to the house, and I worked a few weeks there, I think. And basically everything was pretty much written and done. So it was just adding leads here and there, adding this there and there, and a few harmonies here that they could think of that weren't there and stuff like that. So there was no initial stuff, but no stuff actually created there. It was just honing it, what we'd already done. But when we went to Spain, we did physically write. And the only song that we physically wrote together in the same room was Changing. And we wrote it in 45 minutes over the kitchen table in Spain. It was just magic.
Or is that just picking up a guitar that just poured out?
Yeah. So we want to do more of that. We love being in the same room and swapping energy and writing. And we love writing together. And I certainly love writing with him. So long may it continue.
I think the last time I spoke to you, you talk about the experience being in Spain. It's an amazing studio, going for that walk down the valley. Yeah, and that was very much part of the creativity of the album as well, wasn't it?
Well, Youth's a shaman, as you know, so it is quite magical. And he was determined. It was me, Siobhan Fahy, and Nick Lorne, and another guy called Biff, who's his friend from Bristol, who's a really cool guy. And we all went on this walk that Youth kept going on about, called something like Broncos de la Luna. I can't remember, but it's like the Valley of the Moon. And it was like, he was, convinced this is the valley of the divine feminine. And it was this huge, deep gorge that ran underneath the studio. But he was like, we're going on a walk. And I thought, great, okay, I'll put on my hiking boots. And it's you go on this walk, and come out of the studio, we go on this walk, and all of a sudden I see that we're going down this, not hill, down a freaking mountain with I'm clawing at the earth so as not to fall in deep, deep, deep down, the kind of thing that you would assume you would take a pack mule down. You would not physically walk. And we're going down there. I'm going, where are you taking us? Oh my God. Then we stop and we do a ceremony, right? And we burn some stuff, and Youth does an incantation, and it's all magical and fabulous. And then we take this walk, and it's down this gorge, which at some points is a raging river, and at other times is, it was so brutal. I was so scared, and I'm little, right? I'm 5'2". So everybody else is tall, and they're up to their knees. It's up to my neck, And I'm I'm practically crying, and I'm trying not to be Private Benjamin, like Goldie Hawn when she's the little princess. I'm trying to be this tough. I'm going to get through it. But there were moments when I was physically scared, It was intense. It was a rite of passage, for sure.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, I guess there are other unconventional creative techniques. I mean, when you initially started working on the songs, would there be times you didn't write songs, you just have long conversations about stuff? So he's kind of sussing out how to make the tunes to fit. He's getting to know you to know what the music's going to be.
Yes, but we mostly we communicated through the music. This song is, in a weird way, almost like love letters through music. It's a modern way of writing love letters. So he would send the music, and I would lovingly write back all the words and the melodies, and then we would be communicating in the most purest way on this amazing energetic frequency. So as we wrote the music, we did get to know each other, and I'm sure he got to know me through the music. But he pushed me as a writer to be more vulnerable, to be more honest, to write in the first person. Because I used to have a bad habit of writing she instead of I, because I was so private and didn't want to bare my soul. And he was like, no, your vulnerability, more vulnerable, more honest, you. And he pushed me to really open my soul and to bear it. So the songs got us to know each other. It's very, very beautiful, actually.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because in post-punk and probably the world that we're all in, that's not the way people normally do things, is it? It was always third person. And Youth is part of that as well. So it's interesting that's a different mindset for him, isn't it?
Yeah. He gave me so much confidence, and he was such an incredible person. He is such an incredible person to work with, and I love every second I spend with him. He's hilarious too.
Oh yeah, but it's a 50-50 thing, isn't it? His projects, he does Pink Floyd and Crowded House and bands that sell 28 million records, doesn't he?
That's right. Yep.
I mean, your record's going to do well, but not to that level. That's an insane level. There's hardly anybody gets to that level. He could spend all day doing Pink Floyd. So there must be something he gets out of doing these, like people like you, Gina Birch, and all these other projects. There's something for him, isn't there? It's a reciprocal process.
I mean, you'd have to ask him what it is that lights him up inside from doing these things. But obviously he does. He works all the time. He's always working with such interesting people, big and small, you know. And I mean, for me, I just made the album I wanted to make, and I have a really great team around me, and I everything that happens after this is a bonus, and so far it's doing amazingly. I don't know how many. It's not even been out a week, and they've had to reprint, repress, so it's going great guns. And none of the press has come out yet on it, which I'm sure is going to be positive. And even if it's not, I can't control it. I'm just happy with what I did. So yeah, you have to ask him what lights him up about it. But sometimes when you do something and there's just this magic about it, you get these goosebumps. You know what it's like, and you're like, whoa, this is a moment. And that's time to just stop and to say, I love this. I love what I'm doing. It feels so good. And to really be in the moment and not worry about what happened before or what happened in the past. Just enjoy where you are. And that's what I did all the way through it. And I'm still doing it.
And how different is it working with youth? And we talk about an artistic kind of levels that it was working with Mark. You know, it seems to me it's almost like a reverse kind of situation in every way possible.
So it's not really a reverse. It's weird. It's like being around their energy, Mark Smith's energy and his brilliance, and youth's energy and his brilliance are different. But for some reason, both of them fired me up as a collaborator. And they both respected, revered, and treasured me as a writer as well. And to work with them, both of them, I would say they are both the best writing partners ever in different ways, but they were extremely respectful and nurturing in other ways. Mark was a very, very good collaborator and a writing partner, although he was notoriously difficult on other situations in life. When it came to that, the kernel of the music, which is probably why the music has really stood the test of time, because that kernel is of purity without any of the bullshit around it. It's the actual connection of the two people writing, you know.
I mean, they're both quite shamanic figures as well, aren't they?
Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes. Yeah, but I'm not too far from that myself, so it's all good.
So what was it like when you went to when you brought the band in? Did that make a difference? I mean, obviously you already recorded the record, but the songs take on a different life. And also, how did you choose the people for the band? There's definitely parameters. They had to be an all-women band. Well, that's part of the process.
Yes. So I was like, how am I going to recreate this live? I need to put a touring band together. What am I going to do? And Nick Lawrence was like, Brix, I think you should have an all-female band. And I said, that's an interesting idea. I've never done that, and I've kind of always wanted to do that, and I think the time is right. So I called Deb Googe, who I just think is the most phenomenal bass player and musician, My Bloody Valentine and Thurston Moore, and someone who I've played with before and who I know. And I said, hey, I'm looking for I want to put together a touring band for this album I made with youth. Can I send it? Would you be interested first? Would you be interested in playing with me? And second of all, if you are, can I send it to you and see if it resonates with you? And she said, fucking yes. So I sent her the record and she's like, yes. And I said, any ideas of who we could get? And all of a sudden, Deb became my musical director. So she's my wing woman. So she's like, we've got to get Jen Macro, we've got to get these two girls, da da da. And so we went into rehearsals. Everybody learned the songs. And the rehearsals were really great. Originally, we had Baz and Roz from DeFurious, but they've left now. So I've replaced them with a new drummer called Lisa Lux, who was in the Priscillas. Remember the Priscillas? And I got her from Dave Barbarossa, who is like one of my favorite ever drummers.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
He's amazing, right? He's amazing. And I met him at Jazz Coleman's Christmas party, and I said, hey, Dave, you're like my childhood hero drummer. Like you and Bonham, do you have any female drummers? So he came up with Lisa Lux, and then who's like was in the Priscilla session drummer. So she joined. Anyway, Deb and Jen are absolutely two of the best musicians I've ever worked with in my life, right? And they are so good at all the things that I'm not good at, i.e., like programming the DSP, whatever, and all the things. I get such bad what's it called, dyslexia. The SPDX, yeah. Speedy Essex, yeah. And they're just so great. And Jen I call my silent assassin, because she's not she's a very quiet person, really keeps to herself, but my God, can that woman play guitar, and my God, can she play keyboard. She is a fucking brilliant. So working with them, and then the energy of all women. So Lisa's just started, and we've started rehearsals. We've got some confirmed festivals so far. Just Rebellion and Bearded Theory are confirmed, and then hopefully more to come, and a tour for the album in mid May, it's looking like, so everyone can come. So we're now down to a 4-piece, which is good. And it's we went on tour with Public Image, with the old lineup, and that was so much fun. We had a great time. We opened the shows for them in UK, and London, England, and Scotland.
So will the future project, will it be more band orientated, or will you be working the same way, like you work up the songs and then you play in the band afterwards, or a mixture?
I think it's going to be a mixture, because whenever I get in the room with Jen and Deb, and they noodle, when they noodle, all of a sudden songs start vomiting out of me from their noodling, which means there's a natural chemistry there. And I would like very much to collaborate with them, because they're brilliant. So I think it'll be a mixture. The other thing I'm doing is I did some work with Justin Robertson, and that went very well. And so I'm now currently working on more stuff with Justin Robertson to possibly be an album, which would be very, very different, very, very clubby, dancey, different vibe, So
that's good. He's really good. That's
he's
interesting.
Fantastic. Yeah. So people love that Brix Goes Tubular, and that was just one song we wrote. So I'm now currently in the middle of writing and recording stuff with him. So watch this space.
So in a sense, you're in a band, we're not in a band. So it's just a freedom. It's where the songs go, what the songs demand. Now, it's not like the old days where everybody has to do stuff within a band unit.
No, it's where, I'm free to do whatever feels good and whatever feels right. And there's no parameters, as there shouldn't be, zero limits. Why put a limit? Why put a limit, or why put a fence around you, or why define you as, this, that, the other thing, oh my God, break every barrier and do what feels good.
It's interesting you mentioned that thing about when the band are noodling and the songs start coming. You're the kind of person that just needs a spark to get the song coming out. So it's not, because, some people can initiate an idea out of thin air, which is a skill, but also some people can, you just play 2 notes on a bass and suddenly someone else can make a song out of it. Is another great skill as well. Yeah,
that's me. So I can walk down the street, and this happens pretty much every day, and you hear like the rhythmic beeping of a truck reversing, and then you hear a jackhammer, and I've written a song to it. And I'm like literally, it's a weird thing. So that's why I thought when the Extricated naturally came to, and we never even discussed that it ended, right? There was no discussion. We've never had a conversation. It could easily come back together. You just don't ever know. I again, no limits. And when it did end, or when I thought it was time for me to move on to a different phase, I thought, well, I can write for and with anybody if I like the material. And there must be people out there that need my skill as a hookmeister, you know, or a top line person, or even lyrics, because God knows there's a truckload of shitty fucking lyrics out there. So I was like, and I like that. I love the spark. Just like you said, you give me a spark. And I was thinking I could write for these great girl groups that need like female voice, but maybe don't have like the history or the what's it called, confidence to like put it out there like that, or the freedom to write in such a free way. So I was thinking I would be that, you know, and that's where it came from. But
is that still what you would be interested in as well? You know, I mean, now you just kind of force you to go and skip back on stage again, which is good. But you still have the songwriting side. Is that something that's kind of ongoing in the background with youth and with other people? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm like a songwriter for hire. So anyone out there that thinks they want to work with me, I'm up for it. In fact, I think I'm going to be working with some young kids. Actually, I can't really talk about it now, but some young bands as well. So I like it's almost like mentoring, but it's like let's bring forth the new energy, man, and let's infuse it with the ones that can like tell the tales of yore and put it all together, you know.
Yeah, but I think it's a great world to get into if you can, to get that thing like Kathy Dennis or someone where the most unlikely hits. Yeah, you know, you think, wow, she wrote Dolly that as Parton. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, why not? You know, so I guess that's the initial concept, but because you are a performer, you do actually gravitate towards the stage thing as well.
I love performing, you know, get me off there with a hook, really. Like, get up. But it's all part of it, you know. I love every step of it. I love recording in the studio. I love writing. There's not one step I don't like. So I'm obviously doing the right thing.